Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, live demonstration, CyberSaint crosswalking, CIS Top 18 to CMMC 2.0. My name is Ethan Bresdahan. I'm the marketing director here at CyberSaint, and today I'm excited to be joined by CyberSaint VP of Solutions Architecture, Steve Torino, and Senior Sales Engineer, Michael Blumrich. We're so glad that you could join us for today's webinar, and with that, I will hand things off to Steve.
Hi, my name is Steve Torino, and I'm Vice President of Solution Architecture here at CyberSaint. I want to thank you for attending this webinar and also provide some background information before we jump into a demonstration of the solution. Crosswalking has been a longstanding challenge in the industry. The reality is that organizations are subject to more than one cybersecurity framework or standard of practice, depending on things like the jurisdictions where they do business, the industries in which they participate, and the types of customers with whom they wish to do business. Most of these standards are covering domains and controls that overlap, at least to some extent. And in theory, this overlap should make things easier to the extent that we can kind of be sure we comply with the control from one framework. We should be able to map it to controls from another framework and know that we've satisfied that requirement as well. In practice, it's a bit more complicated. Although the controls across two or more frameworks may cover similar content, they often have subtle differences. So for example, let's take vulnerability scanning as an example. A framework like NIST might allow for the frequency of vulnerability scanning to be customized to an organization-defined frequency, whereas the corresponding control from another framework may specify the frequency at which vulnerability scans are to be run, so something like once a week or once a month. Yes, those controls do map to each other, but the subtle difference in frequency makes them not an exact match. Another example could be control inheritance. So most of us by now are probably using some cloud services to operate our business. One of the benefits that comes with that is inheriting certain security controls, such as server patching and an infrastructure as a service model, for example. However, there are other controls for which a shared accountability model applies. In other words, we might inherit part of a control from a CSP, but still have to demonstrate requirements around things like maybe access controller configurations in-house. So what's really critical here is to understand the gap between any two frameworks. And organizations have taken various approaches to finding these gaps or doing crosswalks in order to make their lives easier, because as anybody who's done these exercises knows, it can be really challenging and time consuming. Larger, more complex organizations might roll out something like a large common controls framework, or basically a superset of sorts that can be manually applied across dozens or hundreds of frameworks even. And others might try a method like to rely on the limited set of publicly available crosswalks that are published by authoritative sources like CIS, AICPA, even the informative references to the CSF from NIST. Unfortunately, this is very limited and not available for most frameworks at all. And yet others might work with consultants, bring consultants in and have an engagement to do the crosswalking that they need. What you're going to see today is a demonstration of CyberSaint's unique approach to crosswalking. So whether it's an example of how we can leverage pre-published templates to automate those industry accepted mappings just at the click of a button, or how to use our patented natural language processing technology to create your own templates from any framework to any other framework by identifying control associations with AI provided confidence levels, you're going to see a real world solution that's been custom built to automate the manual and time consuming process of crosswalking controls across frameworks. I hope you enjoy the demo.
In order to crosswalk within the CyberStrong platform, we're going to first go to the administration area by clicking on administration in the upper right-hand corner of the page. By default, you'll be taken to the manage assessments area where you'll go through the crosswalking process in. So first step to get things started, I'm going to choose the assessment that I want to crosswalk from. In this case, I'll be crosswalking from the CIS Top 18 with subcontrols assessment. Next, I'm wanting to go to the actions column and click on the crosswalk assessment icon. This is going to take me to a framework selection page where I can select which framework I'm going to be crosswalking into. So in this case, I want to be crosswalking into CMMC 2.0. I click on that and it's going to take me to a templates page to where I can apply either a custom template or mappings over 80%, 90%. And where these percentages come from is our confidence score generated from our natural language processing models, or I can choose to create my own template. And in this case, I will make that selection. At this point, I can go control by control, leveraging the confidence scores and really select my own mappings, or I can make it things easier on myself, add top mappings for each control, and then I can review those mappings accordingly. I can go and do this control by control, or I can, make things easier on myself and just go straight to next step. And this is going to be the final step in the process. I will name the assessment and then make a selection of whether or not I want to keep the assessment synced. A synced assessment, essentially what that means is at the parent level, if I make a change to a CIS control that is mapped to a CMMC control, then those changes will automatically take place at the CMMC level. That being said, I'm not going to select that for right now, but I will show you what a synced assessment looks like momentarily. I'm going to submit this. And now we have a 66% project completed assessment at the CMMC level. I can go to my controls, and between the confidence score and the auditability for crosswalk history, it does make this process very audit friendly. So we can see which controls map down to a CMMC control and control action level. You'll notice I still have the ability to make changes at the child level here for an unsynced assessment. The only difference between this and a synced assessment is that it takes just a little more of a step at the child level to make those changes directly. So if I go into a control here, if I do want to make changes at the child level, I'll just unsync it. But this was really designed for that roll down of information. So if I go to my parent assessment and I make changes here, this will automatically roll down to the underlying control. This is going to add efficiency and effectiveness, especially when assessing multiple frameworks within your organization. And it really helps the reduction of duplicate work with those multiple assessments.
Thank you everyone for attending today's webinar. As always, if you're interested in learning more about CyberSaint's AI-backed crosswalking capabilities, please feel free to reach out info@cybersaint.io or visit us at cybersaint.io. We'll see you soon.